Hello and welcome. A few weeks ago, I released a sound design tutorial with the Virus TI, and a lot of people asked me to create another one, so today here I am presenting you how to create this pad sound with the Virus. Of course, we start with an init patch. There is no init patch combination on the Virus, so you have to go into the ROM bank A on patch A127 to get an init patch. The first thing that I change in the sound is the oscillator. So make sure to bring the oscillator balance all the way to the left, so that you hear only one oscillator. And then in the edit page of oscillator 1, change the mode from classic to wavetable. Now it's possible to select wavetable here on the right and then move through the wavetable with the index function. And they all sound very different, but it's very nice to explore their overtones and create sounds with them. In this sound, I'm using the first wavetable after the sine wave, which is called harmonic sweep. And the idea of this pad sound is to use this overtone shift with an LFO. So I'm selecting LFO1, and if you go on this edit knob here, you can change different modes here. And it's very important that we go to trigger phase and set it to 1, which means that with each note, the LFO will be starting at 0. And then I'm setting it to a very slow rate, so that with each note that I play, it's more like an envelope. It's a very slow rising and falling envelope that we can create using the trigger phase and also setting the mode to poly, which means that each note will trigger the envelope. By the way, there's also a function called envelope mode, but if you set this to on, then we will have only one cycle of the envelope. This can also be interesting, but I'm not using this in this particular sound. After we set this LFO to the desired settings, I go to the modulation matrix and select LFO1 in the bipolar mode, which means that it will output positive and negative values. And as destination, I look for oscillator 1 shape and index. And in a pad sound, I want very slow modulation, so I set the rate to a very slow value, something about 17 maybe. I also noticed that it takes a while until the wavetable starts to move. So to counterbalance here, we could go back to the oscillator menu and raise the index. But later I will also add a lot of attack in the amplitude envelope, so I think it's okay to leave it somewhere around 5 or so. Now I will move to oscillator 2 and select the wavetable mode as well, and select the same wavetable, But in this case, I will tune up the oscillator 2 by 7 semitones, which means that I will always have this fifth interval, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 semitones. So this goes 7 semitones up. And then we have like an overtone. And the louder you set this second oscillator, the more dominant this effect will be, of course. So I try to go for a very subtle setting, maybe put the mix knob at what is it, 9 o'clock or so. And then also I go back to the modulation matrix and select oscillator 2 shape and index, but I don't want this LFO to affect the second oscillator that much, so I have only like half of the effect here, because the basic waveform of this wavetable is also a sine wave. So the more the LFO moves through the wavetable, the more overtones I get. And if I want to have it like with a darker tone, I need to set the LFO in the mod matrix to a lower value. Neptune, please stop shaking the camera. Thank you. So this is already a good starting point. Of course, we need the envelopes to work here, and I go for a fair amount of attack and also long release. And also when I play a lot of fifth, I get a very interesting spectrum of sounds, because the fifth interval is also part of the sound design. So I'm like stacking a lot of fifth. So this is a lot more interesting in my opinion than just playing a minor chord or a major chord. So it's more like an open space of notes here. To add a bit more movement to the sound, I would like to use an LFO on the pitch. And for this, I take LFO 3, because LFO 3 has a very nice special function, which is called fade in. So I could add the LFO to the overall pitch. And when I use the fade-in function, then the amount of the LFO3 will be increasing over time. So with a fade-in like 100, I won't have an effect at the beginning of the note, and then it slowly fades in. I decrease the amount to something around 15. So here the tone is more stable at the beginning and then kind of moves out. I also want to use the same LFO for a modulation of the panorama. So at the beginning the sound is staying in the middle, and then it starts to move between right and left channel. You probably noticed that I was not using the filter at the moment, and this is due to the fact that this wavetable starts with the sine wave, which is just a fundamental, and then slowly expands the frequency range and then goes back to the sine. So with the filter, it would not be much of an effect. I could demonstrate it by closing the filter, but there's not much happening, and it only takes away the nice overtones. So in this sound, I will just leave the filter as it is. Next, and very important part of the sound design are the effects. The delay and reverb of the virus are very nice. I will first demonstrate how it sounds with the virus and then move to my favorite VST plugins, and then you can decide whatever you like more. In the delay, I will use the tape mode. Have a lot of feedback and set it to a long time, of course, so that it's rather slow. If you add some modulation, you get some nice chorus effect on top. Oh, this is good. And then for the reverb, we need to set the type to Hall and increase the time to almost maximum. Maybe add some damping to cut off some of the high frequencies in the reverb. Now we have some nice clipping going on. This clipping is actually in the virus, so if you have a lot of delay and reverb, you need to bring down the volume. So we go on the edit page and look for the page which is called Common 103, and there we have patch volume, and then I just reduce the patch volume to something around 50 or so. And then the clipping is gone. Let's exchange the effects from the virus with something else. So I first switch the effects off. Also very nice with the effects from Valhalla DSP. Thanks a lot for watching. This is it for today. See you next time. A lot of different wavetables. This one selects the wavetable and then... Oh, Telefon. Hallo. Prima. Ja, super. Dankeschön. Hervorragend. Ich danke Ihnen. Tschüss. Danke, tschüss. Where was I? I think I talked about the wavetable. So